Before the end of the year, I wanted to do an update on Gaza. It's not been in the headlines as much lately, so what's happening? Where do we stand on the ceasefire? Now, the first phase of the new ceasefire deal went into effect on the 10th of October. A central part of that deal was the return of Israeli hostages and the release of Palestinian prisoners. Israel says all living hostages have been returned, along with the remains of 27 deceased captives since October. Israeli officials say the body of one Israeli hostage is still believed to be in Gaza, but the recovery efforts have been difficult because of the widespread destruction and rubble in Gaza. In return, Israel agreed to release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, roughly 1,700 of whom were detained during the war without formal charges, according to rights groups. So it might appear like the ceasefire is holding, but what's happening on the ground is a lot more fragile. Israeli military operations in parts of Gaza never fully stopped, including airstrikes and ground activity. Israel says it's targeting ongoing threats, but since the ceasefire, Palestinian health authorities say nearly 400 Palestinians have been killed and more than 1,000 wounded. And this week, an Israeli strike killed a senior Hamas commander. Hamas says that strike violated the truce and put the ceasefire at risk, and Axios reports that the White House privately scolded Prime Minister Netanyahu over that strike. So even if there's no return to full-scale war, there's no real sense of stability either. Under the ceasefire deal, Israeli forces were supposed to pull back to a designated security boundary inside Gaza, often referred to as a yellow line. So Israeli forces remain deployed in much of eastern Gaza, which accounts for more than half of the Strip's territory. Now, if the deal moves to the next phase, a further pullback of Israeli troops will be required. Now, all of this is unfolding as Gaza's humanitarian situation remains dire. Much of Gaza is uninhabitable. Large areas are rubble. Hundreds of thousands of people remain displaced. And now winter has made conditions worse. Aid agencies say heavy rains and storms have flooded makeshift shelters, worsening displacement and contributing to more deaths. The UN and major aid groups say aid levels remain far below what's needed. They say that's partly because access to Gaza is restricted by Israeli authorities. On the diplomatic front, the White House wants to progress to the next stage, and the US hosted talks this week in Doha aimed at charting the next phase of the ceasefire, including talks about a possible UN-authorized stabilization force. Now, whether those talks lead to concrete steps may determine whether this deal becomes something more durable. So as the year ends, that's the reality in Gaza, a ceasefire on paper, but deep uncertainty on the ground. That's it for now. If you'd like more explainers like these, you can follow me on my socials and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.